And joining us now here on the Jay Stevens podcast, he was here before the season, and now he is here after what may have been the biggest game of the year for the Saints. It is Ross Jackson, host of Locked On Saints, and he covers the Saints, does some things for SB Nation for the Saints as well. Ross, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Glad to be here with you. Always a pleasure to be able to chop it up with you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love it as well. Ross, let's start here. I kind of tipped you off with this before I hit record, and I've been hitting everybody that covers a team with the same style of question. If someone that didn't know anything about the Saints at all, and they were to come to you and find out, oh, Ross, you cover the Saints, you talk about the Saints, I got a question for you. And they ask you, how would you describe this year's New Orleans Saints team? Remember, this person knows nothing about the team at all.
Right.
How would you describe the way this team has played this year?
I'm gonna take it completely out of sports. I'm gonna take it out of sports. I'm gonna give you an analogy that's like this. The New Orleans Saints are a big old pot of gumbo that you're still trying to season to perfection. There's just that little bit that's still missing for this team, whether it be because of what you haven't put in there yet, what you put in, and then for whatever reason you decided to take out, however you managed to do that with gumbo, or what you just haven't been able to add just up to this point in the season. So they're a very, very good team. It's still missing some key spots that they'll continue to improve upon as they sort of limp their way into the playoffs at this point.
You mentioned little bit missing. What is missing from this team that would make them have every ingredient inside of them right now?
Well, right now, with the way that this defense has been playing so far over the season, particularly over the last 8 games or so, what you're really missing is offensive consistency. That happens when your starting quarterback misses 4 games. And then when the starting quarterback comes back, then the number 1 wide receiver is out. You also have this big game of hidden yardage that's always been really important to the New Orleans Saints, their ability to have these big returns with their all-pro return specialist, Deontay Harris, who's been injured for the past couple of games. He's now on injured reserve. Those types of moments, those little bits of spice help to make that pot of gumbo exactly what it needs to be. Either you're missing a little bit of filet, maybe you don't have enough bay leaves, maybe you can use a little bit more cayenne, whatever it is, like that's what it is for the Saints. It's the chemistry on offense, and it's that hidden yardage game that they're usually able to take advantage of over on the special team side. You
mentioned it, receiver. I was planning on going down this route a little bit later, but you already hit it up top. Michael Thomas on one of my fantasy teams, and I don't know how I had this. I got like DK Metcalf, and I got Tyreek Hill. So Michael, I got another receiver on the team that like Michael Thomas doesn't even play at all because my receivers are loaded. But he just got put on the IR. He had missed quite a few games this year. There's been a hole there. And as I look at the numbers, I know the numbers don't really give the best picture about how somebody has played. But Alvin Kamara got 80 receptions on the year. Were you kind of expecting Michael Thomas out, that the production in the receiving game by Kamara would go up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's when you talk about like safety blankets for Drew Brees.
Yes.
That's your order, right? Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara has had 81 receptions exactly over his first 3 seasons: 81 and 17, 81 and 18, 81 and 19. Now he's going to exceed 81. Finally, he's going to break that streak. But there was a point early on in the season before Michael Thomas returned after he missed those first 6 games, including and then plus the bye week. During that time, Alvin Kamara was on pace for 120, 130 catches
as a running back,
right? As a running back, and so that was one of the reasons why he was getting that MVP talk, because of the fact that he was, the guy, or at least offensive player of the year talk. He was the guy that this offense was essentially funneling through without Michael Thomas present, without Michael Thomas available. So it makes a lot of sense that that's what you've seen from Alvin Kamara so far this season.
He had a run. I believe this was like the 9:15 mark of the fourth quarter, where it's kind of like a shovel pass almost, where he's coming across the line, and then Drew Brees is like, here, just take it, like hot potato. That's what it looked like. He shoveled it to him, and then I thought he was going to get down at the 5-yard line, and then all of a sudden he breaks through, and I literally am at home watching the game. I said, wow, because I don't know how in the world the Chiefs defenders didn't just break down, gang tackle him, push him out of bounds, and make him not just basically be like, look, y'all in my way, but I don't care, breaking through this wall and getting right to the end zone. That's one thing I like about Alvin Kamara, is because he has those running back skills. He can break the tackles that running backs can. But in the open field in the receiving game, he can get those shovel passes. He can get those dump downs, security blanket, like you mentioned, that he is for Drew Brees. And he's just so versatile. And the more I look at him and watch him play, the more I fall in love with him. And for some reason, Ross, I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's interesting because of the specificity of what he does. he doesn't really fit in a category of comparison. And because he doesn't fit in that category of comparison, nobody has these conversations about him. But Alvin Kamara gets one or two at least of those plays in every game that he plays in, whether Taysom Hill's at quarterback, Drew Brees is at quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater's at quarterback. That's what Alvin Kamara does. Alvin Kamara, I tweeted right after the play, I know exactly which play you're talking about, because that'll go down as a Drew Brees passing touchdown because it was that shovel pass that went through. But that was all Alvin Kamara. And I tweeted out immediately, Alvin Kamara should be pay-per-view on the weekends because what he does is just insane. Like he's incredibly special. He's incredibly special.
He is, man. This team itself, before the season, I had high hopes for the offense. I expected the offense to be one of the top in the NFL, not 16th in yards per game, 21st in pass yards per game. Rushing yards per game is up at 7th and then 9th in points per game. As an offense, I expected top 5 in all those categories, maybe top 10, because at some point injuries like have happened this year, they're going to hit the team, and you're going to have to find a way to overcome things that you didn't expect to happen. It's just the nature of the beast is football. Things are going to happen. With this offense this year, not just with losing Michael Thomas, Drew Brees is out for a few games, but Kamara as well playing well. Who are some pieces of this offense that have stepped up? Now, Taysom Hill, yes, he did step up to win 3-1 in Drew Brees' absence, but who are some pieces on the offense that have stepped up this year to really show that even though there's some people missing, we can still win games and keep this ball moving?
Yeah, I would mention 2 players in particular at skill positions. You've got Latavius Murray, the second running back for the Saints. He's had several multi-touchdown games, or a couple of multi-touchdown games throughout the season, but he's had several touchdowns throughout the season, including in this week's game where he picked up a blitz and then it helped to extend Drew Brees' rep after the snap to about 6 seconds. The offensive line held. He did a great job picking up a blitzing linebacker and then leaked out just in time to be an outlet for Drew Brees. And then he had the big, I believe it was 24-yard catch and run for the touchdown off of that. We've seen him do that a couple of times this season. So everything that he's done in terms of what he's been able to do as a running back, but also how he's improved as a receiver out the backfield, which didn't always used to be Latavius Murray's game at all. That's something he picked up and really focused on when he got to New Orleans. Hell, they lined him up at wide receiver a bunch the first time that he showed up and the first time they got him in practice because he's 6'3". Why not? See if you can get him
exactly.
And then you also see what he's been able to do, keep helping to keep Drew Brees clean and also be a lead blocker because he was also out there as a lead blocker on that very Alvin Kamara touchdown we just talked about. So he's done a lot of that. The other player that I'll mention is Traquan Smith. He ended up getting injured in this game and was out, wasn't able to return, but he's a big piece for them as somebody that's been able to make some purely physical and contested catches. He's been able to make catches in traffic. He's been that guy that's been able to really benefit off of, coverage, really focusing on Michael Thomas when he's been back out on the field. So he's been giving you that other option. So I would point out those 2 in particular at the skill positions. And then another guy that we just don't really talk about because of the position he plays is Michael Burton, the fullback. He's somebody that has really been multiple in this Saints offense. He's somebody that has been a lead blocker from the wide receiver position. He's been a lead blocker from motioning out wide to back into the backfield. And he's been that guy in the backfield as well as a runner and a receiver for them as well. So he's been pretty big for them in some key moments in terms of needing to extend drives, but also as a lead blocker for Taysom Hill when you saw Taysom Hill have some of his biggest plays of the season. Yesterday's
game, Saints and Chiefs. I kind of said the biggest game of the year. I know the rivalry matchups there in the NFC South. I mean, the Falcons. It's the Falcons. They did blow another lead to Tom Brady again. Shocking. Not sure how you do that again. But it's Tom Brady. The Buccaneers have weapons. It's Tom Brady. Some things are kind of expected. But yesterday's matchup between the Chiefs. I'm watching this kind of quick recap of the game. Watched some yesterday. Wanted to get some little quick hits again this morning. And I'm just seeing this Chiefs offense. They have so many weapons, and they utilize them in great ways. From the little pitch pass at the goal line to Travis Kelce, which I'm thinking, first off, who thinks about things like that? You have 4 guys out there, your tight end's back, and you're just another quick hitter there, touchdown to Tyreek Hill. They hit Sammy Watkins, I believe, over the middle for a couple times. And they have so many. Le'Veon Bell, I believe, scored maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns yesterday.
1 touchdown,
Oh, and you just have all of these weapons, and it just seems like it flows so well. As you watched this game yesterday, what were some of the 2 or 3 takeaways that you had from the Saints' perspective?
Yeah, I mean, particularly looking over at the defense for the Saints, I was actually pleased with what I saw from them, considering what they had to do. I mean, they had to essentially dare Kansas City to run, and Kansas City met that expectation. I think they ran 40-something times, 40 times, 44 times in this game. And so they met that expectation. But you can see the difference, right? You can see the difference between when you force that team to run versus when you are, allowing them to have those deep passes. The Kansas City Chiefs didn't have an explosive play in this game beyond 23 yards. So that's big for the Saints defense that, of course, throughout the first 4 or 5 games of the season was giving up the most 40-plus yard plays in the NFL. And then you expected to see a couple of those in this game. No 100-yard receiver given up. Patrick Mahomes did not throw for over 300 yards. I thought the Saints defense did a pretty good job with what they had, and I'm pleased with what I saw from them. It took perfectly placed passes. It took creative playmaking, play calling in order to win this game. And it really came down to a fumble not being able to be recovered in the end zone by Alex Anzalone, and it bounced out for a safety instead. So if I'm going to take away 3 things from this game, 1, the Saints over on the offense are still incomplete without Michael Thomas, and Drew Brees is still getting healthy. That's going to be a big benefit for them once they roll around to the playoffs. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Number 2, if the defense is able to do what they did against Kansas City against just about any other quarterback not named Patrick Mahomes, they will win their games. And then 3, again, the importance of special teams, because you saw the importance of special teams coverage for the Saints, and then they just didn't have that special teams return side that they would usually have.
When I saw that fumble in the end zone, or lack of covering the fumble in the end zone at the end of the first half, I believe, I'm sitting here thinking, I hope this doesn't come back to bite you. That's one of those plays where you look back at a game, and I'm not a person. Officiating yesterday was decent. I don't want to have any problem with that. Yeah. But there are times when people, the refs cheated us, or the refs did this, or the refs did that. Look back into every single game. Probably in the first half, there are 1 or 2 or 3 plays, no matter the sport, where you could have done something different to overcome whatever the referees make bad calls. They're human, but you are the ones playing the game, and you can dictate how well things are going. And that's the play. You look back at it, and I even saw how his head was down on the ground at the end of that because he realized he messed up. Those type of plays will scare you, will hurt you. It's nice to have Drew Brees, but Ross, I don't know what we're going to get from Drew Brees going forward, coming off of an injury.
Right.
And I don't know if I should trust him. I trust him more than Taysom Hill, don't get me wrong. But there's something about Drew Brees, his age, the injury.
Sure.
I just don't know moving forward how far this team can go in the playoffs because of how Drew Brees is with his health.
Yeah, I mean, the right way to look at this is that it has to be everybody on that team getting to a Super Bowl. It's not, Drew Brees is not going to bring this team to, he could be the difference, right? He could be a little bit of that missing ingredient in terms of what he can give you in an up-tempo offense, which right now Taysom Hill can't run, not because he doesn't know how to do it or not because he doesn't have he just doesn't know that playbook. He doesn't have that command of the offense yet. That's what happens when you've only started 4 games in the NFL. That's just part of the equation. But so I think that what you get with Drew Brees can be difference making, but is Drew Brees himself the difference? No, it's going to take play from the rest of the receivers coming back healthy. It's going to take play from these other receivers that are there that need to create separation. It's going to take Jared Cook making more positive plays than he makes negative plays, or making the positive plays before he makes the negative plays for a change, those types of things. Young guys like Adam Troutman to step up, right? The young tight end out of Dayton. And more opportunities for Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. The defense, it's going to take all of them to win a Super Bowl, to continue to progress through the playoffs. It's not that Drew Brees is going to come in and Drew Brees is going to be that guy all of a sudden. He's not that guy anymore, but he still gives you enough to maximize everybody around, but everybody else has to be able to play their role. So it won't be Drew Brees getting to the playoffs or getting to the Super Bowl. It has to be the New Orleans Saints doing it.
The entire team sounds like they have to be the ones to come together and rally and basically just do their job. Right. I've been saying that. I say that all the time. It's almost elementary to some people. But if you just do your job, yes, it's going to be hard. The NFL, no game is easy. The Saints have the Vikings and then the Panthers coming up. Yep. 2 teams that on paper, they should win. But you can't expect to win going into any matchup. You just have to do your job. Looking at the next 2 games, I just looked it up. The Vikings next week, the Saints are at home. Then they go to Carolina the last week of the season. Do you play Drew Brees?
Yeah, I think you do. I mean, based on what you saw Sunday, the game against the Chiefs, I think you do. I mean, obviously he looked good. He took some hits and he was able to keep playing deep into this game. He'll have more time to recover. He'll have more time, during the practice week and everything like that. But the biggest thing is get him into rhythm before the playoffs. And I think that's one of the reasons why they brought him back. He wanted to come back for Philly. New Orleans was like, no, that's not happening. You're not getting back that quickly.
That competitor came out of it, man, real quick.
Yeah, he did the same thing with the UCL tear last year. He was like, "Let me come back 2 games in," and they were like, "Bro, sit down. Like you have got sit down and do this. All right, work that thumb out." But you know, I think that's going to be a big part of it is maximizing his rhythm ahead, because we have not seen the Saints offense be a well-oiled machine with all of their weapons. Drew Brees and Michael Thomas have played 10 quarters together so far this season. 10
That's
quarters.
it.
That's it. That's
Oh
all
my
that they played
goodness,
together.
that's 2.5 games.
Yes, that's all that they played together so far. And one of those was the very first game of the season where the ankle injury happened late in the game while Sean Payton was trying to put up 40 on Tampa Bay instead of just taking the win. So, you know, it's tough, but I think that's what you have to do. Like, you have to see more Drew Brees these next 2 games, not because you need to evaluate him, but because you need to get him in his groove before the playoffs.
I'm right there with you. I would play him. Some people may be looking at, the Vikings. Oh, that is on. Wow, it's a Christmas game? I didn't realize that was on Christmas
Day. It's Friday. It's just a couple days away.
I thought the NFL would not try to take over for the NBA, but I guess the NFL's like, forget you. We're taking this day over too.
100%. They were like, no, this is our day now. We appreciate it. This is our day now. It's a great day. It's a great day for the city of New Orleans, though, because the Pelicans play in the morning, and then once that Pelicans game is over, the Saints should be kicking off. So that's a pretty dope day. Like, for Christmas, come on, like, I'll take that. But
everybody's going to be drunk, man. During the Pelicans game, they're going to be drinking, and then all of a sudden when the football comes on, if the Saints play bad, they might tear the house down.
Oh, it's gonna be a weird Christmas in a lot of households. If that's
I loved it though. NFL football, NBA. No matter if you're an NBA fan or an NFL fan, you're going to get the best of both worlds. Yep. I don't even know what other matchups. Who else is playing on Christmas? I didn't even know there was football on Christmas because I know the Colts are playing.
That's the only one. That's the only one.
Oh, the only one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How do the Saints get that? I would have thought
they usually get they've gotten a Thanksgiving game for the last 2 seasons.
Okay.
And so I think, and it's been the most successful Thanksgiving game each of those years. They didn't get the Thanksgiving game this year. So I guess the Thursday night game just got moved to Friday, and they were like, well, we'll just Christmas it because there might not be basketball. So they just
true. Because basketball was up in the air for a while. That did escape me for a little bit. In regards to the defense, we did talk about it a little bit earlier. 3rd in yards per game, 5th in passing yards per game, 4th in the league in rushing yards per game, and 6th in points per game, only giving up 21.2 points per game. Now, this has been recorded on a Monday morning. There is still Monday Night Football to come tonight. So those numbers could get moved just a little bit based off how the game goes tonight. But the defense is scary. I mean, absolutely scary when you look at how they're playing. Chiefs, that's a different story because, like I mentioned earlier, they have so many weapons.
Right.
As talented of a defense as the Saints have, as many weapons as the Saints have, Malcolm Jenkins can only do so much before it's like, look, y'all got weapons on my left, on my right, and right in front of me, and there might be a cat behind me.
Right.
I can't cover. I can't be in every place and try to get all my guys in the right places as well. But this defense moving forward, how can they improve to maybe help out the offense that is down a few players?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really going to come. The big thing you want to see this defense do is take the ball away. Gather more possessions for that offense. You didn't really see the Saints steal possessions in this game. You didn't see them go for it on 4th down, but for once you did. And a lot of that had to do with them playing behind schedule a lot. There were a lot of 4th and 3 or 4th and 6, 4th and 8 type plays as opposed to 4th and 3 or shorter. So stealing those possessions over on the offensive side was tough. So getting the takeaways on the defensive side would have helped. It's obviously, of course, very hard to get those against Patrick Mahomes, who up until he played the Miami Dolphins had only thrown 2 interceptions on the season. Then he threw 3 interceptions in 1 game, so he got that all out of his system for the rest of the season, it looks like. And so it's going to be tough. But they were able to steal a possession late in the game with the pass rush. Trey Hendrickson and Carl Granderson both just collapsing on Patrick Mahomes and causing that fumble that Quan Alexander picked up. That was huge for the Saints because it gave them another opportunity to close the gap a bit late in the game. So you need to see more of that. You need to see more of when the pass rush gets home, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands. You saw 4 sacks in this game, and you've seen the Saints be one of those teams that has a ton of sacks. They had 8 sacks in 1 game up against the Atlanta Falcons, but no forced fumbles on those sacks. And you're used to seeing, if you're going to have 8 sacks, you're used to seeing at least 1 fumble.
At least.
And so that's been a big thing for the Saints pass rush for the past few seasons, is that they can get to the quarterback and they can get the sacks, but can they get the ball out of the quarterback's hands? I think stealing some of those possessions and generating more takeaways would be extremely beneficial to the Saints offense, especially if they need the reps to get into rhythm.
Quickly, let's look ahead to the playoff picture. Currently, the Saints are in 2nd place in the NFC. What are your projections for the playoffs? They're going to get in, but what are your projections? How do you see them doing in the playoffs? Because without Michael Thomas, man, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It absolutely is. One win gives them the NFC South, which means that they are at worst the number 3 seed in the NFC at that point, because they're not going to fall below the number 4 seed, with the NFC East being whatever the hell it is. And so when you look at what it is that the Saints have the advantage, you have the ability to do here, they control their own destiny. They need to focus on winning both of these games, even without Michael Thomas. And they've won a ton this season without Michael Thomas, right? Because you saw them have a win streak before he showed back up, and then they were able to extend that win streak for a few more games. But you saw what it is that the Saints were able to do against Kansas City on that Sunday game. So now they need to essentially be able to replicate that same type of defensive success, get into some kind of a rhythm over on the offensive side that allows them to deal without or move forward without Michael Thomas and win without Michael Thomas over these next 2 games. If they do that, they lock up the number 2 seed at worst. And then if Green Bay happens to stumble against the Chicago Bears and the Tennessee Titans, which seems extremely unlikely, they could work their way back into the number 1 seed. But even getting the number 2 seed in the NFC, even though it means they'll have to play in the wild card round, they'll still be in good position hosting at least the wild card and divisional games.
And I think actually with Drew Brees' injury, it wouldn't be bad to play in the wild card, because you're going to get him, because a week off, that thing could tighten up. He could get stiff, come back in the divisional round, what that would be the divisional round. And he's just like, man, I can't move. Like, my body's not feeling it. Getting those reps week in and week out, those really helps. I remember going back to my childhood watching Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, if he was in a wild card, okay, great. But it seemed like there were times, especially early on in his career, Peyton Manning did not do well after a bye week. I don't know what it was. I know it could be mental. It could just be the reps weren't there. But there's something about, especially if you're coming off of an injury and you're trying to get used to playing once again and your number 1 target is not there, it's a perfect time for him to be able to keep his body moving, keep in the same repetition and the same rhythm that he's used to being in, on the line, just his arm to get back. Because I think he started 0 for 6 or 0 for 7 on Sunday, which is not like Drew Brees. But first game back after missing 4, you kind of expect a little rust, but it was maybe a little bit more rust than I had expected. Ross Jackson, thanks so much for coming on. If you could take some time to let people know where they can catch you on social media, where they can catch Locked On Saints, and then also where they can catch some of the articles and some things you guys are doing at, I think it's Canal Street Chronicle. I think I got that right.
Yep, you got it. Yeah, man. No, always a pleasure to be here with you, man. First of all, appreciate you having me on. Y'all can follow me on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola, Nola. You can catch all of the writing and everything over at CanalStreetChronicles.com, the SB Nation site covering the New Orleans Saints. And of course, Locked On Saints is every Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcast. Doesn't matter. We're there. We're iTunes, Himalaya, if you happen to use Himalaya, Spotify, Stitcher, we're everywhere. And shout out to Jay for being a part of that Locked On family as well. So very glad to be here with you, man. And I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, Ross, thank you so much. Thanks for reaching out to me earlier about the Locked On opportunity. I love it. The daily thing helps me out so much and just getting better. But I love it because it keeps me grinding every single day, and I love every second of it. Ross Jackson, thank you so much for coming on, talking about the Saints. And I look forward to big things, not just from you with the articles, your podcast, but also from the Saints throughout the rest of the season as well.
Absolutely, man. We'll do it again.